Good morning, everyone. We are awaiting the joining of the participants. We'll just begin in some time. The resource persons are also joining in a while. So we are just awaiting that. We'll start in, let's say, a few minutes.
Sure.
You can hear me, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We'll just check the audio of everybody so that, we are all clear. So I am going mute now.
Yes. I hope it is voice are clear for everyone. They have just checked it out.
Should I put out my video also, ma'am? I'll go mute on both, or I can remain in video, right? I'll just go audio mute.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, madam. Shall we start? This is Pranita.
Yeah, you can start, Pranita.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. I, Dr. Pranita, welcome you all to the e-conference on innovation in management practices for the Sustainable Development Goals, held on 3rd and 4th September 2020, organized by PCET's S.B.PATIL Institute of Management in association with AICTE New Delhi. We are extremely thankful to AICTE for giving us this opportunity to conduct the e-conference. We welcome our guests and experts for the e-conference. Dr. Parag Kalkar, Dean, Commerce and Management, Savitribai Phule, Pune University. Dr. Apurva Palkar, Director, Center for Innovation, Incubation and Linkages, SPPU. Mr. Himanshu Nautiyal, Ex-President, Aditya Birla World Class Manufacturing Limited. Mr. S.M. Gatti, ex-Vice President Aditya Birla WCM Limited, Mr. Pratyush Prabhakar, co-founder Community New Delhi, Mr. Kapish Saraf, co-founder KidX Venture Private Limited, Gurgaon, and Dr. Sanjay Lakde, Dean Research and Development, TCCOE, Pune. Thank you all the honorable guests for joining us for this conference. It's always a privilege to have you all with us. We are proud that we have received immense response for this e-conference. We have received more than 350 registrations and 49 paper presenters from all over India. And we are thankful to each and every participant for the same. All the paper presenters in the e-conference shall be published in the conference in the form of conference proceedings by the reputed Himalaya Publishing House. Also, selected papers shall be published in UGC CARE and Scopus Index journals. We request the participants to attend all the sessions scheduled on both the days to get benefited from our eminent speakers. The coordinators for this e-conference are Dr. Bhushan Pardeshi, Dr. Padmalojan Bisoi, and Dr. Anish Karya. I would now like to introduce the convener of this e-conference, Dr. Kirti Dharwadkar, Director, S.B.PATIL Institute of Management. She is PhD and MPhil in Development Economics and has completed MPM in HR and Industrial Relations from SPPU. She is a PhD guide under SPPU. Ma'am has, to her credit, more than 15 national and international research papers, and she has also co-authored 5 books. She has more than 15 years of experience and is a well-known name in the field of academics. Ma'am is also a member of Academic Council and Board of Studies, SPPU. May I now request you, ma'am, to kindly give away the welcome address.
Thank you, Pranita. Good morning, all the eminent guests on the panel. First, I would like to thank our mentor, Dr. Narayana sir, and Dr. Apurva Palkar, who is the director of CIIL SPPU, who has all accepted our invitation to give away the welcome address as a chief guest. I would like to even thank Dr. Katti, Mr. Katti, who is a real contributor for this particular concept of our seminar, that is innovation. I would like to thank Pratyush Prabhakar sir and Kapish Saraf, who has accepted our invitation and ready to share their views that how the innovation can become an eminent tool or an instrument to achieve your sustainable development. I would like to thank Lakde sir and Parag Kalkar sir and Nautiyal sir, who are going to share their views on this platform tomorrow. Now, how this particular concept has came into existence, we have seen that India is a very big supporter to all the world for its talent sharing. We have supplied, or we can say that there are many Indian people have gone and contributed to the development of many countries. We were never seen a dearth of the talent. But if we see in our own country, we have seen that there is a lot of gaps, innovation and other things are never came into surface to the extent which contribute to the development of the country. After so many years also, we are still struggling to get that platform of best innovator or best innovation practices in our country. If you see that contribution of Indian talent in American economy is very, very huge. India is known for its talent also. When we thought or we were churning on the topic, what should be the topic of current era? India is known as a developing country since very long. We were contributing, everybody was patting that fine, India has such a big talent and we are giving so much things to the world. But if we see the global economy, China was never on the map of the world to give that intellectual property concept to the world. But on the growth and on the innovation path, China has already passes India and become a major contributor now to the world economy. And this has triggered off our concept of this particular e-conference theme. That how the innovation, since we are a B school, we thought that why we should not enter into the innovative management practices which help our business school students that how they can enter into this innovation arena. It's not the property, or I won't say that only engineers or the scientists or the science background people are only doing the innovation. But if you introduce any new practice which help the economy to support their system of operation, I believe that it is an innovation. Now, how presently or how good you give that support and make your country more efficient to contribute more and more in the world economy, so that our people are recognized in the global arena with more and more weightage. That is the basic idea of this conference. Now, this pandemic, nobody has thought, and innovation has taken a front seat now, and our Honorable Prime Minister has given the concept of Atmanirbhar Bharat. If we see our education system over the period, in olden days we have certain kind of inclination towards different sector or different faculties where the students were shown their interest. But over the period, India is becoming only the service supporter or service provider. We have never thought of giving the people who have the manufacturing capacity. We never, though we have a potential of becoming the manufacturing hub, but we never gave that importance to the manufacturing, and we've been known and recognized in the world economy as a service provider country. Now remember one thing, that services may change as per the terms and condition offered by a particular people or the particular service provider, but manufacturing is the key for growth of any country you can name. You can take a Germany, you can take Japan, you can take US, even now China. Most of the foreign countries are investing in China because they were providing them the platform of a manufacturing hub. New innovation platform they have provided, because of which China has seen the growth of leaps and bounds, and today they are trying to rule the world economy. So I feel that even in India, we have to think of tapping our talent which is draining out of India because of non-availability of opportunities for them, must be retained and nurtured here in our own country for the benefit of our own economy. You have to create, and it's not necessary that innovation is attached to the degree certificate. It depends on how you think, how differently you are able to create, how you nurture the curiosity of the child or the students, and try to channelize that curiosity in transforming that curiosity in an innovation. It may be in the field of engineering, it may be field of science, it may be field of even management. How efficiently you are promoting students to ask the question, why they are not coming up with the different questions in their mind. The more we will do that, you will see that the youth of our country will have that potential which was untapped since many years, will help our country to become a Atmanirbhar. Now I know that it is not a one day affair that today I am thinking, or just Honorable Prime Minister has declared 2 months back, now we are suddenly going to become a very innovative hub in India. But our small step across the country will certainly add some value to our manufacturing sector and our scientific DRDO, or you can take the Hindustan Aeronautical Limiteds or any other scientific areas, or even I can say pharmacy, microbiology. There are many aspects where student interest was going down. We have to regenerate and push them and try to make them understand that these streams are also equally important, and they also nurture the same kind of your personality and your potential as you can see in the medical and engineering. So I feel that this particular platform of e-conference, or the subject of e-conference, will help all the participants and our students who are becoming a part of this conference will understand that even management can provide that innovative concept to the world, to how make your industry more successful by introducing smaller innovative practices in your organization where you are working, be it in finance, be it in marketing, be it in production, be it in analysis, because analytics is becoming a very new segment and getting more importance nowadays. So how students can develop that skill? You can't sit back and say that I'm not getting an opportunity. You have to try to create a utility of your own ideas in the market so that people can understand that you are creating something for the society, for the people who are in need of that particular utility. So once that particular thing has introduced in the market, you will see that innovation will automatically come forward by people. And last but not the least, I would like to say that we as a institute, we as a government sector, or I'll say the politicians or the government new bodies who are coming, should provide that opportunity to the smaller innovative ideas. Until and unless they will not be promoted, you should at least tell them that fine, you should come forward and present your ideas. If you will not motivate them, nobody is going to come forward and show their idea, be it by a failure, but at least he knows that I have been given opportunity to present something new out of the box, which is going to be listened by someone. Maybe I will not get the success in that, but nobody is stopping him to present his idea. So I once again thanks all the panel members who have come here and going to enlighten the new minds who are thinking of bringing something new ideas, some new ideas in present scenario where these things are required. I am sure that this knowledge is going to further lead at least 2, 3 or at least 10 new ideas will come forward in a management segment. So thank you, and I hope that these 2 days will definitely add more and more values to the time you are spending with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for such a brief about the conference and such a warm welcome. Now I would like to introduce the chair for the conference, Dr. C.N. Narayana, Senior Professor and Chief Mentor, S.B.PATIL. Sir has more than 3 decades of experience in industry and academia. He is a transformational HR and strategy professor, having great command on subjects like change management and organizational development. Sir is an institution builder and mentor. He is called as a Midas Touch Director in B schools. So let's have Dr. C.N. Narayana to give away the address. Over to you, C.N. Narayana, sir.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Pranita, for the introduction. I'll start this thread from where Dr. Kirti Darwadkar left. That's about the economic growth. So today the conference is very relevant in terms of topic and how we are going to connect with people in the subject of not only innovation, but the management practices. So if you talk about the developed countries, so-called developed countries like US and UK and some of the European countries, Germany, they have all focused on a parallel connect between the management practice and the innovation happening all the time. That makes a huge difference when you talk about the management practice. It's not about talking a theory of innovation. So I'll say that economic growth in developing countries require application of appropriate technology and effective management practices. It is not either or, but both. In the moments of crisis, companies quickly shift their attention to survival when the businesses are scrambling to cope with the economic need, employee safety. So it is a misguided focus on sustainability. So when you are talking about sustainability, when you talk about innovation, it has to be sustainable in the long run. And when you talk about the practice, it is to be called as a practice, then it is to be sustainable as well. So innovation has to be a culture of sustainability. be it an organization, educational institution, or even, for that matter, a country. Organizations like Xerox, GE, and Indian companies like Tata's, Infosys, and Serum Institute of India always focus on innovative culture to take any rude shock. I still remember working in Xerox. Most of the ideas of innovation came from the employees. That means they had a freedom of giving ideas. We had something called Eureka, where any employee can contribute an idea, and if it's going to be successful, implemented, they will be rewarded. That's how those organizations work. And then we should also look at some examples of those organizations where they were successful in innovation and invention as well. When you talk about management practices, it has to be connected with sustainability to call it a practice. When it stands a longer period of practice, it becomes a benchmark practice, which is needless to say sustainable in the long run. But does not mean that we would depend on the past laurels, but keep improving every single day to make it an innovative practice, which is necessarily meaning that we need to take into account of interest of all the stakeholders before we implement an idea, wherever it crops from. Out of the innovative approach, what we are talking about to sustain, I'll take an example of one of those tragedies which happened in India in the early 80s, 84, 85, when Union Carbide, the catastrophe happened in Bhopal, where more than 5 lakh people got affected due to gas leak, and nearly 5,000 people plus lost lives, and many people, lakhs and lakhs of people, are still suffering. If they have had a due diligence process of consulting the local people, and then the residents, regulatory authorities have given proper sanction for these things, this could have been avoided. So this is a very good example when you talk about innovation and the practices what we do in the industry as well as in institution. So management practices could be in any area, as pointed out by Dr. Kirti. It could be in HR, operation, marketing, or even in education as a service, or even agriculture for that matter, to increase the effectiveness and efficiency. Sustainable could be from the point of environment to long-term effectiveness and also efficiencies. It includes the best of value for money and the easiest way of doing things. I'll put it in a very, very simple language. It gives an insight into the relationship between the environment and the best use of technology tools, making this world an easily manageable place. So if we talk about organization, it is called the pioneering innovative mode. Organization refer this as a PI. The primary generators are more of a strong internal variable. So when you talk about internal variables, we have to connect that with environmental variables. That's what makes an innovation successful. Environment may be that it may necessitate some PIs for the firms or organization to differentiate in the marketplace. So it could be used as a differentiation tool. But definitely when you talk about innovation, we should have a sustainability in mind, and it should be with all the stakeholders. And it could be even opportunities diversification, some of the companies which are doing in pandemic period, or organization to differentiate in the marketplace. And when you talk about innovation, it has to be a continuous improvement. I can't say today I've innovated a product or service, I'm going to sit on it. No, it has to be, as I told in the beginning, it has to be an everyday affair, and you have to be a culture to make it happen and sustainable. So some of the innovation practices in healthcare management in the recent year is a very good example. The PPEs and the companies which are coming up during disaster management processes, how to reduce infections in the long run through various management practices, including social distancing, use of technology, and remote operations. All these things or touch-free devices, I can say. Lots of things we are learning during pandemic. But should we learn only through pandemic? No. As I said, it has to be an everyday process of improvement, and also in terms of innovation happening day-to-day life. And if I specifically talk about education sector, the management practices in academics, it could be pedagogy, technology, newer medium of mode of instructions, and the newer tools which we are going to use in the to making learning and absorption easy for students. Education as an industry has to change not only in the message but also in the medium, including technology, good creative content. This is also an example of innovation management practices which is happening in this sector. So if I have to summarize this innovation, for a layman's understanding, it's a called, I can call it as a 7 P's of innovation. The first P being the planning, and the second P being the pipeline, and the third P is process, then people, platform, product or service, and performance. So what is then innovation management? Management innovation is nothing but the practices we are referring to. The learning model for a technology innovation management is contextual. Number one, it has to be contextual, and it has to be work-based learning. It could be integrated learning. It could be problem-based learning. It could be cooperative learning. It could be even experiential learning. And last but not the least is a blended learning methods. So since we are an educational institution, I want to put this thing across very clearly. What are the drivers if you're talking about innovation in education specifically? And these are the drivers. And what are the structure we are talking about? The structure could be, it can have various facets. So if I talk about overall scenario, the outer lines, inner lines, if it is a circle, then I can define structural, in terms of contextual, and the management practices includes knowledge management, your global network, your regulatory, your multimedia, your outer circle includes all these things, even regulation. And innovation management practices for internal thing, it includes knowledge management, strategic human outcomes, education and learning outcomes in case of education. So if you talk about the cycle, outer and inner cycle, how it is moving, it is hand in hand. So the research practices and innovation performance, which must result in successful business outcomes or educational objectives or outcomes we normally refer to. So it starts from the idea of funnel. So innovation has got a funnel. So you got various ideas we just put there, and then whatever filters out to be the best 3 or 4, we select and see whether that is a workable idea. That is how all the successful organizations, which I was referring to, Xerox, GE, have done the innovation as a culture. And this is called a cycle of management of innovation cycle. And, it comes through a culture of innovation. So that's going to be the rider when I talk about the foundation of innovation cycle management. And finally, the innovation as a product or a service is the end one, which we are going to end up with. If this product works effectively with sustainability as a goal, any management practice through innovation must address a fair world, economically growth-oriented world, and we must achieve resilience of management practices, which can be followed by research paper presentation on various things which we are talking about e-conference. It could be discussed anywhere, but ensure that all the stakeholders are involved in this sustainability stuff. Otherwise, innovation will become a useless thing internally. It has to be useful to the society, to the country, and all the stakeholders. Then only you will see innovation as really becoming practice. So when you talk about a practice of a management school, B schools definitely look at benchmark practices, and the organizations, the institutions which are focused on innovation would grow, and even the consolidation of the B schools will happen in the years to come, basically based on these parameters. So it is a very, very relevant topic for today. And these practices should be sustainable in management practices. And you have a erudite panel members and the keynote speakers for this 2-day conference, which is followed by a research paper presentation on tracks. I'm sure these 2 days of interactions will throw light to give some insights into both innovation and sustainable management practices. I want to thank the organizers and the guiding people over here who have been, you're not there in this screen, but definitely the people who work there, including Pranita, Dr. Pranita, Dr. Anish Kumar Karia, Dr. Aishwarya, and all those people. I want to thank the director, Dr. Kirti Darwakar, for giving me the opportunity to come as a mentor and speak a few words on this topic. I also want to thank Dr. Parag Kalkar, SPPU, and also our Dr. Apurva, who is also there in today's proceedings. And you have a lot of luminaries like Mr. Kati and Mr. Himanshu, who have agreed to come and spend a valuable time as keynote speakers. Last but not the least, I want to thank Dr. Bhushan Pardesi, Dr. Padmalochana Bishoy, and the entire team of SBPIM. And we are hopeful that this conference will give a lot of insights, and also want to wish all the very best for the two-day conference. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you very much, sir, for such an insightful talk. And thank you so much for recognizing everybody and everybody's effort. Thank you so much. Let me now have the honor to introduce our chief guest, Dr. Apurva Palkar, Director, Center for Innovation, Incubation and Linkages, Savitribai Phule, Pune University. Dr. Apurva Palkar is a startup specialist in education and a transformational expert. She has spearheaded large-scale international projects with various governments and has been active in policy-making framework and development of research. She has been in leadership position for the last 15 years. She held the position of director for 10 years and later worked in corporate AP Global as a chief operating officer, education. Madam has been a part of several apex bodies and policy framing committees such as State Higher Education Council. She worked as a convener task force globalization of higher education as well as advisor to the Minister of Higher Education, Government of Maharashtra on all policy matters till 2018. She has been associated with several international and national boards and bodies and is currently the member of Academic Council and Board of Deans, Savitribai Phule, Pune University. It's a huge pleasure to have such a rich and dynamic personality with us today. We are all awaiting to hear from you, madam. So may I now request you to kindly address the participants. Over to you, Apurva, madam.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. We can hear you, and we can see the screen share as well.
You can see the screen share. Okay. 1 second. Just give me half a minute. Is the slide available? Yeah. Hi, good morning, everyone. At the outset, let me congratulate Kirti Dharwadkar for having thought of this very important and relevant topic, which is innovation in management practices for sustainable development goals. I think this is a very, very tall order that is being taken up in this particular seminar today. And I believe that they're going to be, I saw some 145 participants. I assume that they're going to be students who are going to be listening to this particular talk that I'm going to be giving today. So let me run you through my presentation today. This presentation that I'm going to be taking today has two components to it. One component is what I call it as the innovative thought process in the university system, in the college system, in the MBA schools, in the business schools. And the second part, I'm trying to cover what is happening in the pandemic and what is it that we should be really prepared for from the business school perspective perspective, and how do we counter that in times to come? So these are the two parts of my presentation.
Ma'am, may I interrupt you? Actually, your voice is breaking in between.
The voice is breaking.
Yeah, there's some network error.
Okay. Uh, नहीं, दूसरा. I'll just try and fix this if possible. Now, can you hear me well?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Now we can.
So, we talk of innovation quite often in business schools, but most of the times, we are encountered by such statements that I want you to find a bold and an innovative way to do something exactly the way I was doing 25 years back. So this is the crux, and a lot of times we are governed by people around us who just are so inflexible to the change. Because the world is talking about the innovation, the world is talking about bolder initiatives. There are a set of people of my age group who have been tuned to working in a specific structure and a specific environment, and we tend to have everything done in exactly the same way. Innovation can never flourish in an environment like this. I am not surprised when I looked at the current course structure of the business management program. I found that beautiful subjects are there. A lot of new initiatives are there. However, when we start talking to people in terms of what really lies inside it, is the real story, and I'm not getting into the positives or negatives of it, but I feel that it's important for us to understand what is it that we really want to drive through what we call it as innovation. This is another problem that most of the business schools tend to feel, that we will have a creative business seminar, and by doing a creative business seminar, I will be able to create a lot of problem solvers. It's just not like pressing the button of a telephone where you can become creative. This is a different state of mind which requires a different tuning from the business school perspective. It is a top to bottom approach, and this approach has to come into the whole business education system. And I'm strongly trying to drive this to the Innovation Center at Savitribai Phule Pune University, where we're trying to spot people who are able to think differently and do things differently, which is what is the whole premise of the center in the university. Now, this is from the industry perspective. The moment I know that something which is very, very new and innovative, uske मैं 1 million छाप देता हूँ. So then it loses the whole sheen of what innovation is all about. I hope you are able to understand the message that I am trying to give you. So, welcome to this world of chaos and rigidity. If you're getting into the world of innovation, it is important for you to understand that you're getting into a world which is a cluttered world, which has a lot of rigidity. There is a lot of chaos, and you are going to make noise with your innovative approaches, be it your teaching methodology, be it your learning methods, be it the student who comes out with innovative ideas, be it someone who comes with a startup which is not existing in the market, be it a problem that you're trying to solve for the society where no one has thought of this particular solution. So let me welcome you into this new world. I'm not encouraging people to get into innovation. However, it is important for all of us to understand that it's not an easy ball game at all. So, but at the same time, let me also tell you that it is not so complicated as people feel. It is not a straight line either, which goes from A to B. But it is not so spiral like a Maggie noodle that people will not understand. It is just the mindset change and the culture change that is required to bring in innovation. And probably when we are talking of a topic of something which is going to be sustainable over a period of time, understanding this from the core becomes very, very important and significant. Now, let me try and bring in the concept of innovation, which is known to all of you. So, innovation is nothing but something that is new, that has the capability to create the new economic value. So, economic value is the crux of innovation for a business graduate. Some time back, while Obama was the president of United States, he made a very bold statement saying that education and innovation will be the currencies of 21st century. And in this, it is important to understand it is just not about an idea, but it is active implementation and execution of the idea which drives the whole power of innovation. And that's where it gets converted into the currency that we are talking about. Now, where is the starting point for all of this? The starting point for all of this is with students, it is with the faculty members, it is with the alumni, it is with the industry, and it also lies with every common person around us. Now, I know we are all in the domain of the business school where we are all trying to develop thinking capabilities. Now, what are these thinking capabilities? I know there must have been some teachers in the emotional intelligence side who would have spoken about 6 thinking hats. But are we wearing the 6 thinking hats while we are getting into the boat of life? Are we really asking the right kind of questions? Are we asking questions as to what do we do? Do we need to know? Do we have intuition? Are we getting into the judgmental mode? Are we being creative? Are there emotional expressions to what we do? Are we being optimistic? Are we thinking about thinking? So these are the few hacks that one needs to get into before even getting into the platform of innovation. This is not a rocket science that I'm speaking, and I know business school graduates have gone through it, but I want you to put it into practice. Everything that's learned in theory looks very good and rosy, but it is important to bring it in practice. Now I'm going to the second part, the thinking process, and this second part is the why part. In the why part, this is one question that I want to ask every school graduate. Have we actually thought of solving any society's problem using our knowledge? It made a mention of the fact that innovations are not a cup of tea only for technical students. This can also come in business schools. If we strongly believe that this can come in the business school, it is important for us to think, what are we doing with our knowledge? Are we effectively using our knowledge to solve somebody's problem? It's also important to understand that the problem that you're trying to solve is that the problem identified by the society. If yes, then you are doing the right thing. If no, you are not doing the right thing. So now what is really required? What is really required is the new order of education. I strongly feel that we need to develop thinking capabilities in students, in faculty members, in the whole ethos and the ecosystem of education. And most importantly, we need to develop self-belief. Unless we are able to develop self-belief, I don't think we will be able to garner anything in the innovation space. Innovation space requires people to have strong confidence and self-belief in their own selves. We need to allow people to think beyond the obvious. I know a lot of times there are students who come out with very stupid, silly questions in the class. And I think these are the people who need to be nurtured to speak up more, think more, and go beyond what is in the given framework and beyond the black box that we are all tuned to think. how are we going to start this? I strongly feel that the starting point is get with an idea, come with an idea, center. So I strongly feel that the school should nurture students to come out with very, very strong innovative ideas. And this nurturing should happen over a period of 2 semesters that they are in the institute, and give them the confidence of how they could scale this up in time. It's important for all of us to understand that is my right bet. My
Ma'am,
answer is yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Actually, your voice is breaking in between, and the PPT is not getting changed. The slide is still the same, the first slide.
Slide is not changing.
Slide is not changing, and the voice is also breaking.
Oh my God. Then there is a problem issue. I think I am in the slide share. That's why I've never used Microsoft Teams in my life before. We are all people, so
Yeah, now it's changing.
Yeah,
Now it's
yeah.
changing.
We can see the slide. Yeah, youth's ability to think and innovate, supported by knowledge of professor. We can see this slide, ma'am.
okay. Now can you see? You should have told me because it loses the whole sanctity of.
I
Actually, I
sent a
didn't want to
message
disturb
there.
you because your thought process was just flowing, so I didn't want to disturb you in between. Even the
That's
voice
okay.
is breaking, so we cannot hear you clearly, very clearly. Like in between, it happens.
Okay, okay. So just interrupt me when you're not able to hear me. Okay, just tell.
Okay.
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 So, what really becomes important today is the youth's ability to think and innovate, and this has to be supported by the knowledge of professor. Unless the professors are knowledgeable enough to support this thought process, I don't think we will be able to deliver what we are here for, and even the seminar will be really useless and unsuccessful if we are not able to do that. So, industry and society provider of problems that need solutions, and this is where the solutions have to come from colleges. Colleges have to kind of reach out to the society and industry to seek the problems. In fact, I was quite surprised and shocked last year when I rolled out the I2E competition. And in the innovation to enterprise competition, I asked the colleges to reach out to civil society, reach out to the nearby municipal corporation, reach out to the nearby industry to ask for a problem and give them as the statements in the class for people to solve. And I was surprised that 99.99% came back to me saying that we couldn't identify a problem. We couldn't reach out to the civil society. We couldn't reach out to an industry next door. But this is a challenge that I am facing, and I am living with this problem day in and day out. However, I strongly feel that this is where I came to the rescue of giving the problem statements myself. But I think if we are able to drive this kind of a change where people move out of their cocoons and out of the textbooks, out of the Googles, and start interacting with people, I think there will be a lot of innovation that can get developed over a period of time. Now, I'm going to be coming to the current landscape, and I think this is very important for everyone to understand the current landscape of business and the significance of innovation post COVID 19. So, this is absolutely a new area, and we're all exploring and experimenting this for the first time. But I will try and bring some analogy of how such kind of pandemics or such kind of disasters have happened in the past in the world, and how is it that the world has looked up at any of these. I know for sure that we all have witnessed. This is a picture which has been sourced from
Ma'am, you are
economics.
still in the second slide only, it's not changing.
Oh my God. It's in the second slide. It's not changing.
You are still in youth and ability to think innovative, supported by knowledge professor. That is staying there itself, is not moving.
Still now?
it has changed now. I can analogy how behavior change. I can see that.
No, I'm in landscape of business.
You can also do the full screen, madam. Full screen would help you.
No, we are on full screen here from my end. Wait a minute. Let me.
It's come now. It's come to landscape. Changing trends of society has impact of pandemic is appearing now.
Okay. This slide, can you see? Economist slide?
No, we can't.
I don't know what's the problem. This Teams is very
Teams is very slow, ma'am, in changing. So you talk it through.
The lousiest platform that I've ever come across.
Now you can see a cartoon there. I'm popping down again. Analogy how behavior changes the slide.
I don't know. This is going for a toss if I'm not able to show you because.
Ma'am, you continue talking. I think we're able to hear you. Yeah, this is again the carton which I talked about to be safe. I'm popping down to the shops.
Absolutely, but this is to go in the slideshow. Okay, is this available? Is it? Can you see the economic slide to be safe?
No, we can't see it here. You have to go down, ma'am.
Acha, the moment I go to SlideShare, it doesn't show. If it is not on SlideShare, it shows. Like
you continue, ma'am. I think you continue talking. That makes sense.
Okay. Now, can you see any slide on the screen? What is the slide that you can see on the screen?
Same one which I talked about. I'm popping down to the shops to the to get supplies, and then you can see all the slides down is smaller. It's not a full screen.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. And if I do full screen, can you see it?
No, you can't see. That is why it is. So you continue talking. It makes sense.
Oh, sure.
Stop sharing. Stop sharing.
Stop sharing. It's saying stop sharing for a minute. I can stop sharing for a minute if that helps. Otherwise, I think let people see it this way also. You can at least see something, right?
Yeah, we can see something.
Yeah, let the next slides be there on the left side. That's fine. As long as you can see it, I'm okay with it. We need to, I don't know why, what was the reason. Of course, Sarkari people don't use Zoom, but rest of them tend to use Zoom. So anyway, this was one slide of economist. This is one picture of economist, which I tried to share. And this is typically a picture in any of the mandais. If you see in Pune for the Ganpati festival, you would have seen something like this. You would have seen even when the 60-day breakdown was there, where people were saying that, okay, I'm in isolation. I want to be at home. I don't want to be in contact with anyone, with public. But at the same time, you tend to go out and make a kiosk for a hand sanitizer. And this is typically a US picture, so it talks about the toilet paper. So this is something that we have all witnessed around us. And this is the situation that we are all seeing. And that's what I told you, that I'll try and bring in some analogy. So what is this analogy? Can you see the slide of analogy?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So analogy is where I'm saying that how behaviors have changed over a period of time. So if I have to look at the historical data, how things have changed. If you remember the World War II, so World War II, where a lot of men died, and this increased the participation of women in work. And if we just, I think 9/11 is something which is very close to everyone's heart, and people have all witnessed this very recently in 2011. There was terrorist attack, and this is another kind of a disaster that the world had to go through. But what is the change that happened with this disaster? It suddenly put us into reshaping of security and transportation. We became very vigilant, and so, on the aspect of screening. Otherwise, prior to that, screening was not something which was an accepted norm for all of us. So collective security became a very, very, very important change due to the 9/11 attacks. If I give an analogy of 2003 SARS that broke out in China, what really changed is that people, the way we are right now, where online shopping, so Alibaba, etc., words became very, very prominent. So this was the societal change that brought about changes in the consumption pattern. We were all business school graduates, therefore I thought that we need to also discuss how is the behavior of the market changing, and what is it that you need to bring a change in your own thought and in your methodology. So I feel that there is a lot of analogy in all the three cases. So do I see them as the changes in the society, and are they going to be permanent in nature? I am not sure whether this is going to be permanent in nature, but I will try and give you certain facts and figures which will help you understand that how things are changing. So one part which all of us have been talking and discussing is the social isolation. So though people, that is the reason why I've always had our Honorable Vice Chancellor also saying that there should not be a social distancing, but it has to be a physical distancing. All said and done, the world is going through what we call it as the social isolation. So in this particular slide, where I'm trying to show that loneliness is not the lack of company, loneliness is the lack of purpose. So this is not what we really want to bring into the society. It is essential and important that there has to be social distancing, which is through in the quarantine phase, and the market sees that this is likely to continue for some more time. This is going to be very, very costly proposition across demographics for a lot of businesses. I know a lot of people who are in the real business, whose skin is in the business. Especially, I always like to give this appeal to business school students, because as opposed to that, when I really see the startups whose skin is in the game, and every pie matters, for them, this has been a very, very big setback in terms of what is really happening in today's times. So let me tell you the second important thing that is going to change with the pandemic, and which all businesses need to understand, is the aspect of the skilled, highly skilled manpower which is likely to work from home. We've already had companies like the TCS who has made an announcement that 75% of the employees will work from home. In fact, yesterday I was reading through the Economic Times, and I found that RPG Group has decided that forever the complete sales staff will be working from home. They will not be required to come to office. This is a major change. It is a huge change that is really happening in the whole business arena, and we're likely to see that the low skilled workers are, or maybe the retail workers, etc., people in the supply chain, distribution, etc., are the ones who are going to be on the floor. The rest of them are likely to work from home. So we need to, though I am cursing a little bit on the technology here, but we need to all understand that this is the new order or future that is going to remain with us for life. Can you see this slide, the race between demand and supply?
Yes, ma'am.
So this is very important, and I feel that this is what we are all facing now. COVID-19 may look like a supply shock to a lot of people. So this is actually disrupting the global supply chain. Quarantine and social distancing across the world is decreasing the labor supply, which we have seen in India as well. Now, if I have to again make a comparison with the previous crisis, so if we look at the previous crisis, which was the great financial crisis that happened in 2007 and 2009, what was lacking? It was not the supplies. What was lacking was the shock was in the financial sector. While in case of the World War, it was that the whole, there was a lot of destruction that happened of large infrastructures. So which means that the infrastructures had to be recreated. As opposed to that, this pandemic has brought us to a standstill where the global supply chains are greatly impacted. And I know in my next few slides, I'm going to be speaking about how this change is going to be impacted. So we are now getting into a state of complete uncertainty. So the uncertainty arises because there is an uncertainty about the progress of disease. We are really not aware whether there's a vaccine that's going to come. So therefore, there's a lot of uncertainty about the economic policies. I know a lot of you would have seen the NDTVs of the world and all the financial papers which have been talking about minus 24% of GDP growth. So this quarter has been a bad quarter for India, and our ability to recoup in next 3 quarters looks very, very difficult. And it is being estimated that it will take at least 2 years for us to revive and come back to the normalcy. It is also stating that a lot of people are losing income, particularly in the industries like the hospitality, manufacturing, etc. Now, what is also happening from the consumer perspective, that the households, what are they trying to do? They are trying to increase their savings. Because there is so much of uncertainty, people are wary of spending. And if you have seen through economists talking, we need to make people get into the spending bag. So that is how our economy is going to change. And I don't know whether people are really geared up to the investment cycle. So there is a lack of liquidity. I don't know if it makes sense to business school graduates or not, but you need to really understand that there is a major lack of liquidity in the problem in the market. Now, if I look at the demand and supply, now what has happened? This is a very simple example that all of us have been facing. In the pandemic, if the product was not available, we said that we can do away with that product. So which means that the needs for a lot of products are going down. ये नहीं है available, चलो ये नहीं खरीदते. So that goes out of your list of buying. So this is actually impacting the supply and demand. So since the demand is not there, the supply goes down. The supply goes down, the demand goes down, and so on and so forth. So this is kind of a vicious circle that we've got into. So this demand and supply loop is very similar to the financial crisis, though this is all driven by something which we call, which is an unknown fearful disease around us, which is COVID. And I know for sure this has been very, very different from the other disasters that the world has seen. Is for the first time that there is a new economic order that is coming because of the disease around us. Okay, so I'm so sorry about this back forth of the slides. So now there is a race which is going on between the demand and supply. There is a disruption in the global supply chain, and I know for sure that we are all gearing up to this state of uncertainty that we are into. So COVID-19 virus is not just a large shock on the real economic fundamentals. It is a shock on the frictionlessness of the market. It also introduces a new wall between the demand and supply, which I told you it is happening day in and day out. There's a contraction in supply, contraction in demand, leading to contraction in supply, leading to large destruction in economic surplus. So I have shown this with this. This is a study which has been conducted very recently by London School of Economics, where they've been speaking about how things are happening. And this was just a case paper a month back, and this is a reality that all of us are witnessing in terms of the real GDP factors which are being shown to us. Why am I showing all this to you? Is this important for you to understand from the innovation space? Yes, it is important, because we need to understand that employments are shrinking. thinking. So this is all generating a very, very different kind of an impact, where we are seeing that, this is impacting the cash flows for smaller businesses. Since it is impacting the cash flows of smaller businesses, the smaller businesses and private businesses account for 60% of total employability today. And therefore, because the implication of the consumption pattern, businesses are getting impacted, and because businesses are getting impacted, the employability in turn definitely is going to be impacted. And now is the time for people to start looking at getting into their own enterprises and their own startups instead of looking for a job. And I think this is a strong message that I want to give to all business school students, that in the economics of pandemic, try not to put your head into your hands after looking at the latest economic figures. This is what is the reality. Let's look at the reality and let us face the reality the way it comes. And I think preparedness for this reality is most significant for most of the business school graduates. In next 2 years, people who are in the first year, or even for people who are in the second year, if you are able to understand what you're going to be facing in times to come and gear up and buckle up for the challenges that are likely to come, I think that will solve a lot of your issues in terms of your own mental health, which is very important. If you are prepared, you will have the right kind of opportunities that will come by your way. Of course, I think I'm already exceeding the time, but I will not get into other areas. But I will also try and tell you that everything is not
Voice
so
is voice is cutting, madam.
yeah, everything is not so bad. There are certain sectors which are extremely doing well, and food sector is one sector which has a lot of potential. So we see that the share of food and non-alcoholic beverages in this pandemic has been at 26.3%. So I hope people are able to understand that health, food, I know clothing and footwear have taken a big toll, but housing, water, electricity, these are again furnishings, etc. Uh, and communication, though it shows at 2.7%, is likely to be the area where things are going to open up in times to come. There are sectors where changes are going to happen, and there are going to be opportunities. So if you look at the trends, I've just given you an example of food industry, where in food industries there are opportunities that are likely to appear in tasty and convenient, nutritious home meals. People are kind of looking at home meals. There will be a lot of demand for easy to prepare meals. There is going to be, people will be wary to non-vegetarian food for the health safety reasons. Health and safety will become the most important priority for people in times to come. People are going to catch up on online buying, which is going to, so people, this business school student, please gear up for online spaces. E-commerce is the future, and we need to really look at how the big data is working. And if you look at the last 4 months data and statistics, you will find that groceries and pharmaceutical have increased by 50%, on the online spaces. So there has been a significant sharp-driven shifts in the purchasing patterns for people. And I will just run you through the purchasing patterns of people which have distinctly emerged. And these are 4 areas. One set of people who are deep cut, second who stay calm to carry on, third who are just talking and piling up, and fourth one is like the youth. बस जो भी है उसको spend कर दो, hibernate and spend. So these are the 4 categories which have really emerged into the market after all this. So please try and watch the trends, understand what are the broader social shifts that are happening, scrutinize the high frequency data which is available around you, get prepared for the future. New ideas often emerge or develop in response to extreme needs arising from social crisis. I it would be unfair on my part to tell you that Airbnb came into existence when there was a financial crisis. When there was a financial crisis where people found it difficult to go and stay in a hotel, people had to cut down. And this is where these two businesses, one is Airbnb, which came into existence, and the second business that boomed around that time was the Uber, where people started looking at. But now again, there is a setback for these two businesses. But every pandemic gives generation to new ideas. The new order of thought has to come from business schools, and I think S.B.PATIL and business schools like yours need to bring in that thought within your students. So that's all from my side. Thank you so much for bearing with me on the glitches of the technology. However, I'm happy if there is any time for Q&A. If there is no time, I am happy to answer them online later. Whenever time permits, you can send me an email and I'm happy to answer any of your questions. Check the screen share.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for such an elaborate and informative session. And you sounded extremely vibrant. It was great to hear you. Now, I would request all the guests to kindly switch on their cameras so that we can take a group photograph online. And after that, I would request all the participants also, whoever can, switch on their cameras after the guest photograph, please. Yes, ma'am, your camera is on. We can see you.
I can't see anyone else.
Yeah, I request all the guests as well as Kirti ma'am and Narayana sir to switch on the camera, please.
Yes, Pranita, we switch on only.
So please, sir, kindly switch on the camera if you are available.
I'm there very much. Is visible? Is it visible?
No, sir. Yeah, now you are visible. Kirti ma'am is not yet visible. Katti sir is also not visible.
It's, my camera
I
is
have.
also on.
Can you see me now?
No. Katti sir, we cannot see you. And Apurva ma'am, we cannot see you too now.
You can't see me? Okay. My camera is on.
Okay, okay. We
I
see you.
can see you, ma'am, Apurva ma'am.
Okay.
My camera is on.
All right.
I don't know where is the possibility of everyone coming together. Is there any gallery view here? No, there's no gallery view here.
Yeah.
Is there any gallery view? I
Yeah,
think
you
there's.
can see like participants too small to
Yeah,
like
yeah. I just put it, but only
click on there. You can
you
say
can
show participants.
only you are to be seen there. Okay.
Yeah, only I think the organizers and guests are.
कोणीच दिसत नाही मला.
I'll just check. I'll just check and be back.
Participants, these people.
countries, the shipping of.
Thank you, Mr. Narayan, to prompt and tell me a few things. But I would have been happy if I was able to show everything properly to everyone. Unfortunately.
You may remember I met you when I was director for Kirloskar, so we
Yes, of
interacted
course.
twice.
Yes, of
Yes,
course. We
yes,
met.
yes.
Yes. Now I remember. Yes.
Apurva ma'am, thank you very much for such a wonderful session. It was very in-depth and very informative. I think most of the people have got deep into what is happening in this pandemic in the economic side also.
I hope it
So,
is not gone above their heads for the students.
no,
It
no,
would
no,
have
no.
gone above their
Because
heads.
they are also read about the economics and everything. Your supply curves and average demand is making a lot of sense in this particular situation. So really thanks to giving a complete overview, which was very much needed in such situation. And we are happy that you are leading a particular center where the innovation has been promoted, and you are doing a nice job to bring all them together who has a new ideas. So wonderful listening. Thank you very much.
Yeah, yeah, great, great. I think we can't come, all of us can't come together, looks like, on one screen. We are not able to come. So maybe if everything is fine, you can just tell your students, participants to reach out to me anytime on my email, or you can share my cell number also. There's no problem. I'm happy to talk to anybody. I'm a very open person, so maybe a WhatsApp is also fine with any student who wants to reach out to me.
Sure, ma'am.
And
We have
yeah,
actually taken the photograph. So we have captured all the guests and a few participants over there. Thank you so much for being here and joining us today. You
yeah.
were extremely vibrant, like I said, and it was really great to listen to you. Thank you so much again.
Okay, bye bye. All the
Now,
best.
now let us move ahead, and I would like to introduce the keynote speaker for today, Mr. S.B.PATIL. Sir has 32 years of rich experience in industry. He has held key positions like Vice President Corporate, World Class Manufacturing, and Deputy General Manager in Aditya Birla WCM Limited. He has also successfully handled key positions in reputed companies like Whirlpool India Limited, BPL Refrigeration, Mahindra and Mahindra, and Bajaj Auto Limited. May I now request you, sir, to kindly give away the keynote address.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Apurva. Good morning, good afternoon, friends.
Good
Can you hear
afternoon.
my voice?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay. So thank you for inviting me. It was wonderful to hear the speakers before, Dr. Apurva Palkar, who opened up a new topic of how this pandemic is going to lead to new prosperity, which is very much connected to the subject that we are speaking today. And also Narayan sir also mentioned about the change management related to the innovation, and so add for the all management schools today. One very important uh, statement Dr. Palkar made was the innovation is the currency for the developing nations, or today innovation is considered to be a currency, and so also for the management institutes. So with that note, I would like to just take you through the small presentation. Okay, now can you see this presentation on the screen?
No, sir, we
Hello.
can't see. We can't see.
Okay. Uh, just a minute.
We can see you, sir. We can't see the share.
Yeah, I'm just trying to share. Okay, I'll just continue maybe. So
Okay.
sustainable development, which is a very important topic. All the large companies are trying to initiate or launch this initiative, and many companies like Aditya Birla Group has got a CEO for sustainability in the organization. So sustainable development can be defined as the development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generation to meet their own needs. Long back when I joined this industry, Bajaj Auto, there was one gentleman who used to talk about, the 3 R's during the 80s and 90s: reuse, recycle, and reduce. That was the concept of beginning of sustainability, during those time. And when we go to meet him in his office, he has put underneath his table glass, a just small poster which many times influenced me as an young boy joining the organization. So the statement said, "We have borrowed this planet from our future generations. Let us return this safely back." So it was very interesting. During that time, people were talking about sustainability. But today, sustainability has come up as one of the important, initiative activity without which the organization cannot stay for a long in the industry. So sustainable development is not just about the environment. Its focus is much broader than that. It's all about meeting the diverse needs of people in different communities, social cohesion, creating equal opportunity to ensure a strong and healthy society. So why is sustainability important? Because we have a finite amount of space. Our resources have their limits, and our technology also has limit. So in 2005, the World Summit on Social Development identified three core areas that contribute to the philosophy and social science of sustainable development. So these pillars, where one is the environment, and second is the economy, and third is the society. So the congregation of all these three at the center is the zone of sustainability. So these pillars in many national standards and certification schemes form the backbone of tackling the core areas that the world now faces. Now, there are several issues corporates have started to address sustainability or material issues the formal stakeholder consultation process. There are many issues related to sustainability. For example, biodiversity. There are about 50 sustainability issues today that every nation talks about or the corporates talk about, like biodiversity, bribery and corruption, climate change, community engagement, investment, compensation, corporate governance, customer inclusion, customer relationship, economic contributions, including tax, employee retention, ethics, integrity, and innovation is one of the issue. Material usage, resources, packaging, public policy, position, water consumption, waste, volunteering, transport, fleet emission, etc., and work-life balance, wellness. As Dr. Apurva Palkar just mentioned about post-pandemic COVID, how the life is going to change. So the work-life balance and wellness is going to be a very important issue post-pandemic. Similarly, employee care and satisfaction is going to be a different issue altogether post-pandemic. Human rights. So there are all these issues will be maybe redefined after this COVID. Innovation and sustainable development. Sustainable development also focuses on finding better ways of doing things without affecting the quality of our life, optimizing the resources, converting harm into benefits, creating prosperity from the problems. So global organizations such as United Nations, NGOs, aid organizations, and even governments are increasingly sponsoring efforts to ensure sustainable development goals are realized for every individual across the board. some other most important sustainable development goals set by these bodies include, there are, similarly, Indian government, the Niti Aayog also has defined the 17 sustainable development goals, SDGs, 17 SDGs. Primarily, there are three primary goals of sustainable development. The first one is to minimize the depletion of natural resources when creating new developments, and to create a development that can be maintained and sustained without causing further harm to the environment. The third one is to provide methods for retrofitting existing developments to make them environmentally friendly facilities and projects. So these are the 17. I'm sorry, just this presentation is not visible on the screen, right? Okay, now can you see this presentation?
Yes, sir. Now it is visible.
Okay, good, great. So these are the 17 global goals, and also Niti Aayog has in India has taken up these goals. So the topic which I'm going to briefly describe about some of these sustainable goals, and how, as you have given me this topic of innovation practices. Now, just now, Dr. Apurva Palkar mentioned about what is this innovation. Innovation is coming up with the ideas and implementing those ideas. And we call it innovation, which is different from improvement. It's because of its novelty. How improvement is novel and it different and unique. So how it is different than invention? Invention is any scientific or engineering principle which has first time discovered, and or first time its application or thought process has come. It's not necessary that invention has come to the market. It's only the discovery. But unlike invention, innovation is actually implementation of the ideas. And what is the discovery? Discovery is the first time finding. Invention is scientific principle, whereas innovation is the general term for bringing all these ideas or scientific principles into the market and generate wealth. If there is no wealth generation, or if there is no value generation, or if there is no satisfaction level increased in that improvement, it will not be called as innovation. So that makes very clear that for all management colleges or institutes today, innovation is a dollar or a currency, or it is the blood which flows into the management system. It's not necessary that only engineering colleges have to find or come out with the innovative ideas. The role of manager today is to find out what are the problems and how can we create prosperity out of these problems, or how can we create wealth or value or increase satisfaction by solving these problems. So increasingly, I think post pandemic, the world would see the managers or management institutes as connecting between the engineering colleges and to the world. So there are ideas. Many times getting these ideas or managing these ideas to bring wealth or to bring value from that is very important. I think management institutes can play that role very well, because the managers have that ability. That's why they are called as managers. So in these 17 goals, let me read each of them. The first one is no poverty. So sustainability talks about, equal rights to everybody, or quality of life for everybody, equality to everybody. It's a very good novel concept of sustainable development. So no poverty. Many of the countries are, have a population where major percent of the people are in poverty. Even people suffer because of lack of food. So no poverty is one of the goal. No hunger is another goal. Good health, as Dr. Apura Palkar was mentioning about, how the people would become more health conscious post pandemic. So this goal is going to be redefined maybe post pandemic. Quality education, the way institutes or colleges were educating the students, it would be altogether different. So maybe this goal would be redefined again post pandemic. Gender equality uh, is the fifth goal. Clean water and sanitation, renewable energy, which is the most important sustainable development goal. Good jobs and education growth is another sustainability development. Innovation and infrastructure, which is at the core of all these development goals, is which applies to each one of these areas. Reduce inequalities is the 10th goal. Then sustainable cities and communities, 11th goal. Responsible consumption is the 12th goal. Responsible consumption, I think, would be again would be redefined after the post pandemic. 13th is a climate action. 14th is life below water. 15th is life on land. 16th is peace and justice. And 17th is partnership for the partnership. So these are the 17 goals for sustainable development. Now, our Prime Minister, Ms. Modi, has, based on this, the initiative that he comes up every time with a very nice and creative statements address some of these goals. Recently, he was talking about walk to work. How can we, because large amount of labor which moved to their original villages from the cities, and the cities or the industry would have scarcity of the skilled manpower. Now the government is thinking about how can we innovatively come out with the ideas so that the people at villages, workers in the villages, skilled people will get the job near their place, so they don't have to travel or so this is a sustainability innovation supporting the sustainability goal. Similarly, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas is one of the statement coming from the backdrop of the sustainability goal. So now because of the time, what I would like to share with you is innovative practices for sustainability. Many organizations and individuals are coming out with the great ideas to support this sustainability. And some of these ideas are really innovative and very novel in their approach. I would like to share some 10 innovative practices, uh, from these 17 goals. One is emissions, that's weather, consumption, water consumption, and also I think we can all contribute as an individual or collectively from the institute how to reduce the consumption of energy or water. Common kitchen concepts, reuse of plastic, agri-products innovation in agriculture, transportation of goods, carbon paint from pollution, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, walk to work. Something I just picked up from these goals, some of these. So let me try to. So Narayan sir and also Dr. Dharwadkar mentioned in the morning that how management institutes can help propagate these practices and how can we contribute in innovation. In industry, people talk about three things: practices, best practices, and next practices. I think in each management institutes, if you have a center of excellence or a center of innovation where all best practices related to the development goals can be collected across the world, and that itself will become an innovation practice to share across. Students can develop some ideas or concepts around these best practices. Next practices are the new trends, where people can talk about visualizing the new trend, coming out with the ideas. So now let me share some of the innovative ideas or the concepts which have contributed to some of the sustainable development goals. I've just combined some of them which appears to be very close. No poverty and no hunger. These goals are very close, so I have combined them. So no poverty, the aim is to eradicate poverty across the board by expanding social protection programs like school feeding, cash transfer, targeted food assistance, social insurance, and labor market programs such as skill training, old age pensions, wage subsidies, unemployment insurance, disability pension, and so on. So these are the areas I think we can come out with lots of innovative ideas. And these ideas can be shaped to become an innovation and could be some of these startups for the management students. If we just pick up the contention or the thought process behind this goal, I think we can come out with lots of innovative ideas and maybe good startups. In this no poverty and no hunger, I would like to share two good examples of how the ISKCON International Society for Krishna Consciousness, this foundation, has got the Bangalore Foundation. ISKCON has got the Akshay Patra, which is a world-renowned food supply for the students and the masses in general. So Akshay Patra was a foundation which started as an innovative concept to supply food to the school children, because they had a data that most of the school children dropped the school because of the hunger. They could not go to the school because they could not offer a meal. So the ISKCON Akshay Patra Foundation took this as a problem to create a prosperity. Today, uh, this foundation has done a marvelous job, and Mr. Obama, the former president of US, has appreciated the great contribution of Akshay Patra. And they have done lots of innovation, because in the morning 2 o'clock, early morning 2 o'clock, the entire team gears up to produce a good, healthy, and sanctified food, more than about you know uh, 12 lakhs of children. And there is a good supply chain in Hubli. They have done innovation, lots of innovation in the kitchen, how to produce the chapatis, in a very on a scale, how to produce the rice in a scale, so to supply, and also in a short time, because time is very important. Also in a short time. Yeah, and also in Pune, there is another branch of ISKCON by name Annamruta, which caters about 12 lakhs meals every day from 20 kitchen. Sorry, this is Annamruta, which is another branch of ISKCON, supplies with 20 kitchen centers across 8 states, 12 lakh meals every day. It's a big opportunity and business by itself. Business in the sense, it's a great task. So these initiatives are contributing in no hunger, the goals of the sustainability. So there are numerous opportunities like this. Many small organizations are also doing a job. Government is also supporting. There is a lot of opportunity for innovating, coming out with the great ideas, how to feed the masses. Presently, the Akshay Patra Foundation has set up a target to supply 10 crore meals during this lockdown period. Is it not a great task? So it is not possible without innovative ideas. Now, another set of goal is clean water and sanitation, and responsible consumption. These are very important goal. As an individual, I think we all can contribute in uh, collaborating with the goals or contributing to this goal of responsible consumption, and also sustainable cities and communities. So in these 3 goals, I would like to share some of the innovation practices. So the world data says about 785 million people remain without even basic drinking water, and more than 80% of wastewater resulting from human activities is discharged into rivers or sea without any pollution removal. Just look at this data; it is really alarming. And at least 892 million people continue to practice open defecation. And this is a great problem worldwide, and definitely there are lots of innovative ideas we can come out with to support this goal. Now I would like to share how to generate the ideas. If you just take the data of the new buildings coming up, let's say suppose in Pune, cities like Bombay, Pune, Nasik, all those big cities where lots of builders are constructing the new buildings. The facility wise they are very good inside, but if the government puts some policies and some restriction, or educating these builders to create the sustainable buildings, I think they can contribute in a significantly to the nation. For example, if you just analyze in a big complex where hundreds of people are staying, almost today every flat has got the uh, washing machine, and every day when you wash, buckets of water goes waste after washing. And if there are 100 flats and each washing machine consumes about 5 buckets of water, 5 into 100, you can just imagine in a day how much water goes as a waste without using. Now here can be innovative idea that I would like to propose, that in future buildings government can put a restriction for them to have an ATP treatment, water treatment plant for the complex. So the water, all the water coming from the washing machines can be collected, treated and used for the gardens, or maybe for washing the outer bodies of the cars. Similarly, lots of water is wasted for washing the cars, washing the veranda, house in front, huge quantity of water. So this activity of irresponsible spending is contributing to the people who are not getting clean and sanitation water. And we use water for flushing in the toilets. This is all drinking water we use. So please remember, in cities like Pune and Bombay, we are all using the drinking water for flushing the toilets. Such a waste. So it is a responsible spending. So a lot of innovative ideas we can generate. Similarly, in Japanese, if you go to Japan, the people are very conscious about any natural resources. So there was a center we had from Aditya Birla had gone to Japan in uh, 2006, where we were staying in a big complex, and all washing machines were put on the top floor. Anybody wants to wash the clothes, he would go put his clothes there on the top, and it will be washed. So you have to put in the dryer, and it will be ironed and kept it for you. But this all you have to do yourself. All that water is collected in the tank below, and it is treated, and it was used. So this is a really best practice or an innovation practice which India needs to really look into this. Similarly, common washing machine facility for all new infrastructure building, government can have some policy or restrict the builders, or maybe reward the builders who contribute to this goal. Separate water treatment plants for all the buildings with more than 50 occupants in the complex. It must be made as compulsory, so that there would be a responsible spending of the resources. Innovation required in using wash waters, flushing, cleaning, etc. And also tax on water quality outlets. Many companies are irresponsibly drawing the water from the rivers and after usage, they are, I mean, just leaving this water untreated to the canals or the open rivers. So this is creating a problem in India and elsewhere in the world, and that's the reason why this 850 million people are not getting a clean sanited water. Tax rebates for builders with environment consciousness. So these are all innovative ideas then government can come out with to support these goals, or to, and individually, the management institutes can educate, come out with these best practices, or maybe uh, this can be shared. And also all the builders association, it can be called and they can be educated to support these goals. And I think we all can do a lot of job in this. Similarly, sustainable cities. So this is how we can create sustainable cities and communities. Next is about enabling access to affordable and clean energy. Energy is the most critical resource in achieving most of the sustainable development goals. Energy plays a vital role in mitigating poverty through advancement in industrialization, education, water supply and health, and fighting climate change. This sustainable development goal focuses on developing and expanding renewable energy resources such as sun, wind, hydropower, liquid and solid biofuels, biogas, and geothermal. See, a lot of organizations, scientific, they are doing the scientific discovery or the innovations in basically coming out with, the productive hydropower or efficient biofuel, biogas. The role of managers is to connect these dots, connect with the society, those people who are innovative, and get these sanctions, or for these startups, or support this financially with the help of the government, connecting the government and the innovators and the society together. I think the management institutes can play a very vital role in connecting these dots. So renewable energy, similarly, there are a lot of innovative ideas. This can be also a startup for somebody who is thinking about starting a business. You see, there are many complexes coming in major cities, and all these complexes can install a solar power, uh, which can supply power to all these buildings. So this could be one of the startup for a manager who is thinking of a startup to come out with the solar system for the colonies, and so that the equivalent amount of power would not be drawn from the MSCBs. So that power can be used elsewhere in the industry, but the natural resources, solar, sun, can be used for generating the power for lighting or for household appliances. There is a great opportunity. A lot of innovative ideas uh, can be generated. Similarly, TERI, an organization which is doing an excellent job, lots of innovation, they have come out with the concept of geothermal energy. So how? Because if you dig about 15 feet below the earth is much colder than on the surface. So this cold area of the below the earth can be used for cooling the houses. So TERI has come out with a wonderful concept. In some of the hotels, like IT hotel in Kolkata, they have tried this innovation, is working very well. So geothermal energy for air conditioning. Even in the colleges, we can think of new colleges or new building coming up. We can use this geothermal energy for cooling, so that we don't have to use the AC, or we can reduce the use of power for air conditioners. Similarly, solar rechargeable lanterns. This can be a sustainable livelihood for villagers. So somebody can come out with the concept. I think companies like Tata's or Birla's have invested some amount of funds for solar rechargeable lanterns in collaboration with TERI, for the women or the people who can maintain these rechargeable stations. They can recharge the lanterns or other appliances which can be used in the villages. Then TERI also has come out with the bicycle friendly roads and infrastructure. It's very important. People want to use the bicycle, but the roads are not supporting. And we need to educate the corporations and uh, the general masses, the builders, and the governments regarding this. How can we promote use of bicycles so that less use of the bikes or less use of the fuel? This will help in achieving the sustainable goal. In countries like Korea, Japan, even most of the people go to the office by using their bicycles. So it also keeps good health uh, and also sustainable innovation. Walk to work concept. Modi ji has come out with the walk to work concept for reducing transportation, and work from homes is also will be a new initiative, an innovative concept for reducing the transportation. And there was a there was a clothing company in Chennai. It was buying about few years back. It was buying clothes, fabric from China, and this cloth used to come through sea, ship. Large quantity of fabric used to come from China because it was cheaper, and he would collect that. He would stitch the uh, clothes and sell it in India, and he used to make lots of money. But what he thought an innovative concept is, this 15 or 20 days during which the ship travels from India to China, it's all idle. So he has put up about hundreds of stitching machines in the ship, and he sends the troops of trailers in the ship. So while returning, they stitch the cloths in those 15-20 days, and by the time they come, the shirts are ready. So this is an example of how uh, offering the jobs on board on the ship and making the sustainable, using the energy and all other things, and that using the time. So the transportation, we can think of how can we add value while transportation. In Aditya Birla, well, they were buying the coals from the truck, and when the truck unloads the coal, and when it goes return, the truck goes idle. So if the truck is coming from thousands of kilometer, it goes idle. So the company thought the innovative idea is, while going, can we use the same truck for dispatching the cement? So this is the sustainable idea, innovation idea. Similarly, there are many companies are trying to come out with many ideas for reducing this waste. Uh, the fly ash, which is a waste from the thermal power plants, earlier it was thrown and it was really nuisance, until one civil engineer came out with an idea that this fly ash has got a lot of magnesium and calcium, and this is a very good ingredient to be mixed with the cement. And the companies are increasingly now buying this waste product from the thermal plants and mixing in the cement to produce good quality of cement. So there can be a lot of innovative ideas. Similarly, the biogas, the bagasse, which comes from the uh, sugarcane industry, can be a lot of innovative ideas to convert this problem into prosperity. Similarly, the molasses which is thrown earlier into the ponds, which was environmentally polluting, can be used for uh, can be used as a fuel. So now people have become conscious. They are trying to convert this waste molasses into biodiesel. So like this, lot of innovation can be applied for these sustainable goals. Now I would like to share very interesting innovation done by the uh, engineers from India. Climate action is one of the sustainable goals. Tuticorin Alkali Chemicals and Fertilizers, TSCFL, a chemical and fertilizer company based in the southern India state of Tamil Nadu, has made a global breakthrough in carbon capture technology, one that promises to prevent emissions of 60,000 tons of carbon dioxide annually. It also has the potential to push forward the circular agenda in India. which the Ellen MacArthur Foundation and United Nations Conference for Trade Development believe could put India on the path to regenerative and value creating benefits. So what they have done is the carbon which is emitted from the chimneys, they have collected this carbon and they have developed a converter which converts this carbon into soda ash. And this soda ash, which is generated from the waste carbon, which is emission, can be used in soap manufacturing, soda manufacturing, and urea manufacturing, many applications. So that waste carbon is used. Similarly, one of the innovative idea is, in cement companies, large quantity of cement is heated to 1200 to 1300 degrees centigrade. Huge amount of coal is required to heat the calcium and magnesia to produce the cement. And this is very unsustainable. India cannot continue with such kind of production processes for long. So one of the idea could be, I had an opportunity to discuss this with the cement companies. Wherever there is a volcanic region, volcanoes erupt in or volcanic susceptible areas, there is a large quantity of heat, and the material which is hardened there by the volcanic process can be used as a very good ingredient for making the cement. So if we are able to discover and uh, capture this or take this volcanic material, we don't have to heat the cement to 1200 degrees centigrade. So this could be one of the very good innovative idea for cement manufacture for sustainability. So this carbon manufacturing, these engineers have come out with a great idea, and it's very, very successful. There are many other countries who want to collaborate with them to reduce the carbon. This is very recent and very interesting that one Mr. Anirudh Sharma from India and his colleagues have come out with a beautiful idea of converting the carbon from the exhaust of the vehicle or digisets into ink. So they have able to capture the carbon from the exhaust of the fuel pipeline and then sink it into the one of the chemical which converts this into black ink. And this carbon is a waste and hazardous, but now when it is converted into carbon ink, it reduces equivalent amount of carbon which otherwise used to go into the environment. And also this ink can be used for printing. When we print the paper and books, lots of quantity of black ink is used, and now this can come from the waste and the pollution. It's a great idea, innovative idea. The plastic, oh my god, this is such a waste. What a waste, oh my countrymen. If you go to many of the rivers and seabed, see large quantity of waste plastic which is thrown, and a very, very great problem. And also plastic bottles, so look at this, some of the pictures, heaps of plastic. And also inside the sea, it looks very beautiful, but it's all the waste plastic, polluting the river and the ocean like this. Now, one of the company from Pune, the Rudra Environment Solutions, have come out with a beautiful idea of collecting. You can see this machine here. They can collect all this plastic, any type of plastic, and then this plastic can be converted into diesel, and that diesel can be used or mixed in the diesel. So that it will reduce the equivalent amount of the diesel, which will be a solution for sustainability. Now, I have an opportunity to talk to these founders. They have a beautiful concept, and in Pune, they have installed many such machines. And in Uttar Pradesh, government has given the clearance for using such fuel for the DG sets in Uttar Pradesh. So it's a great opportunity and innovation practice. So these are some of the I have now already I have crossed the time. So I had a lot of other practices which wanted to share, but I've just restricted to few of them. How can we come out with these ideas around these goals of the sustainability goals, SDGs, and we can really come out with beautiful ideas. So in order to do this, now recently we have published a book. It's called as P2P, and it is, we have also got the copyright from Indian government for this book. I would like to share quickly what this P2P is all about. P2P is wherever there's a problem. I would really appreciate Dr. Apurva Palkar's statement. All these problems would open a new gateway of innovation opportunities. Like post pandemic, there will be lots of innovation opportunities. Like we used to call in earlier days, scarcity is mother of invention. So today it is problems uh, can open a gateway for prosperity. So if you try to look problems as an opportunity, I think we can come out with lots of ideas. So we have developed a process of 7-step process called as an ideation. Look into each of these goals, and then uh, collect the data, define them clearly, what we want to do, evaluate them, and apply creative principle. We have come up with 26 principles of creativity, how they can be used. Any person, whether is an engineer or a school boy or a manager, if they study it closely and if they undergo our training, they can come out with beautiful ideas. So we can generate these concepts and we can create the awareness in the society, bring people together, make it an open innovation for sustainability. I think lots of ideas can be generated. So how pain, problems, poverty, possibilities can be converted into value, wealth, or satisfaction. It's all about P2P. So recently we got this copyright from
So, may I
Indian.
interrupt? I'm sorry. How much
Yeah.
more time will you take, sir?
So I'm just finishing. This is my last slide. Yeah. So this is a problems to prosperity. When if we have another opportunity, we'll definitely would like to share with your students or anybody who wants to learn more about it. I think this can create lots of ideas, and collectively we can contribute to our nation, to our place of working, or to our institutes, and to our country. So thank you very much for giving me this wonderful opportunity. Thank you, Dr. Dharwadkar, madam. We would continue to support this, sustainability initiatives of Indian government. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, sir. Your session was extremely informative, extremely full of examples, facts, and figures, and it definitely gave a lot of information to all the participants. This is what is really expected. It was full of knowledge, and thank you so much for explaining us how we can be more innovative and how we can come up with more and more ideas. Thank you so much for such an elaborate session, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, madam.
Let's move ahead. Let me now have the honor to introduce our today's expert, Mr. Pratyush Prabhakar, co-founder, Community, New Delhi. Sir is the co-founder of Community, a non-profit organization working on community-centric policy making and implementation. Mr. Pratyush Prabhakar is a public policy and communication professional having cross-cutting experience across ministers' offices in various economic and infrastructure ministries. He is also a visiting faculty at XLRI Jamshedpur and delivers guest lectures at top management and social science institutes of the country. He writes regularly in leading media platforms and is an alumnus of IIM Calcutta. May I now request you, sir, to kindly start your expert address.
Thank you for that introduction, and thank you, Dr. Kiri Dhawadkar and Dr. C.N. Narayanan for having me over for this session. I am glad to be among all of you to address the session on innovation in management practices for sustainable development goals. What I'll try to do in my brief address is that I'll try to be as less academic as possible, and I'll try to talk about what changes, what basic changes in our philosophy and in our approach towards work are needed to bring in more innovation in management practices and to align ourselves with the sustainable development goals. I would like to talk about what role you as an educational institution can play, and what role does different stakeholders have in bringing in innovation in management practices and in achieving primarily sustainable development goals, which are for the overall social good. Uh, with that, and I'll also talk from a perspective of an MBA student myself, because I'm also a student of management, and I'll talk about how students of your institutions can and should work should bring in a new paradigm of thought and approach in their work and philosophy. So with that context, first I would like to uh, discuss what exactly does management entail when we talk about management. And I'll also talk about how businesses can contribute towards achievement of sustainable development goals. So if we talk about management, there are so many definitions. I would not again go into the clear-cut definition, academic definitions of management, but basically it entails few activities, few very basic activities which go a long way in defining the success of any organization. Activities like setting goals. I think that's the precursor to any great achievement for any organization or even for individuals. Activities like coordinating and controlling. You need to coordinate, you need to control activities, you need to control different arms of your organization to achieve various goals. Then acquiring and applying knowledge, for example, that's one part of a that's one function of a manager in any organization. Whatever it is, it applies to business organizations, it applies to governments, it applies to educational institutions, and everyone. And one of the very important aspect which I'll focus on is part of an management is to understand and balance the demands of outside constituents. From outside constituents, I mean the various stakeholders you have in your organization, which actually goes beyond your organization, which sometimes, if we have a myopic view of things, we tend to miss. So understanding their needs, understanding their demands, and balancing it with the organizational goal, that's one of the very important aspects of any management practice, and any organization should strive to achieve that. And that's the philosophy of community, which is basically works on community centric policy making and initiative, and that's all about stakeholder consultations, involving stakeholders in your decision making, in your policy making, and and different aspects of your activities. So these are basically broadly these entail the management practices. This list is obviously not exhaustive. There are so many things a manager does in any organization, but yes, these are definitely some of the things. And another aspect is very important, is to build alliances in this society and economy.
To interrupt you, are you trying to share your screen? Because we can see you, but we cannot see the PPT.
No. I'm not sharing any PPT. I'll just be talking.
Okay, all right. We can see you then. Sorry.
Yeah, I'll try to. And one more thing, I would like to make it more interactive. So anyone who's interested can please feel free to interrupt me and get into a conversation. That's
So
one
we
thing.
can see a double screen here.
Okay.
Yeah, we can see a double screen on your computer. Yeah. All right.
Is it fine? Double screen?
Okay, that's fine, sir. That's fine. Please continue. I'm sorry
Okay.
to interrupt.
No, it's perfectly fine. So yes, so I would also like to be, I don't have a presentation to share for a purpose, and I would like to be more interactive. So I would love if people get into a conversation in the middle of my in the middle of my talk. So the other thing which I was talking about is very important, is how to build alliances, because in this competitive and really complex world, any organization or individual uh, cannot just think of achieving success on its own. And when it comes to things as macro as achieving sustainable development goals, it just cannot be done alone. So it is very important to build alliances with across your stakeholders, across your even with competitors, to achieve a larger goal. The topic is about innovation in management practices. So what does innovation mean? I mean, why do we need to innovate? The first thing I would say is that innovation creates long-lasting advantage, and innovation produces dramatic shifts in competitive position. Whether it is, if we go into the trajectory of different organizations which have achieved superlative results, we sometimes tend to see only the surface, only the final result, only the final outcome. Uh, but we often tend to miss that these superlative outcomes are often results of innovation in management practices. Say, for example, Toyota. If you go into the management philosophy of Toyota, of continuous improvement, of lean management, of Kaizen, so all these, Toyota is considered to be one of the pioneers in management innovation. So if you go into the success of Toyota, we only see the end result. That is the Toyota cars, for example, the Toyota engines, which are very nice. And yeah, so we often talk about the Toyota outcome, which is the result which we have in form of final product, but we tend to miss the process which has gone behind the actual product. So, like for example, Toyota is all about, they brought in tremendous change in their management practices, and they brought in tremendous change in their management practices and brought in innovation like Kaizen and uh, this principle of continuous improvement and all. And those changes actually contributed a lot in the success of Toyota. Similarly, if we take the example of GE, I mean, you take any example and you talk about, you go into the details of how they have achieved that success. It's mostly about uh, innovation in their management practices, and that's what it's all about, because and that's what innovation does. Then what is the nature of innovation? We need to innovate to stand out. We need to innovate to create long lasting advantage, to produce dramatic shifts in our competitive position. But what is the nature of innovation? How do we innovate? It's a catchword. It's very easy to say let's innovate, but how do we innovate? So the first step to innovate is to challenge orthodoxy. We cannot have orthodox thoughts. We cannot have orthodox practices cast in stone, because the world is dynamic and we need to change with time. We need to adapt with the changing nature of society, the changing nature of our economy, and we need to challenge orthodox thoughts, and we need to challenge orthodox practices in order to be able to innovate. I would not say even innovate, just in order to be able to innovate, or in order to be able to innovate, the first step is to challenge orthodox practices. The second thing is, which is very important, that innovation has to be systemic. It cannot be Innovation cannot be just sporadic, or it cannot be, say, for example, limited to a particular department or a particular function. It has to be systemic, and it should cover all the business processes and all the different systems and policies which have been set up by any organization. And the third thing which is very important, that if we talk about innovation, it cannot be elastic, or it should not be elastic, in terms of, say, if someone, a very good leader came and he did some he brought in some innovative management practices, and suddenly he went away and all those innovation went away with him. That's not great organizations are about. Great organizations are about lasting innovation. Whether take, for example, Toyota, or take, for example, 3M, or Apple. Innovation is not about an individual. It's about a progress which compounds over time. It's about something which is not at all elastic, and which, in terms of going back, and which is more sustainable and more sustaining over time, over changes in team structure, and over changes in people. It should not be dependent on people. Leadership is very important for innovation, but when innovation once created, should not be dependent on leadership. So that's the point I wanted to make about innovation. And another thing very important about innovation is that we often tend to commit to a small problem. And that's perhaps one of the biggest problem in organizations. We do not have we do not have big goals. We do not have ambitious goals many times in many organizations. And in even as an individuals, even for this applies even for your students, for example, having a small problem, or I mean committing ourselves to a small problem, or committing ourselves to a small goal is not something which can bring in innovation or can bring in quantum jump in our personal as well as professional life. So it's very important to commit to a big problem. It's very important to commit to a to try and take a moonshot, for example. I'm a big supporter of having moonshots. I often talk about moonshots, and that's much more important in our personal lives as well as in our professional life. So we should not commit ourselves to, we should commit ourselves to a big problem and seek solution to that problem, and that from where innovation can come. Uh, the second mistake which we often do is to indulge ourselves in irreconcilable trade-offs. We often tend to think that, say, for example, profit uh, and purpose are two irreconcilable trade-offs which cannot be pursued, or which cannot be sought together. We often tend, even in our personal life, we think, say, for example, money and fame. We often tend to think these are irreconcilable trade-offs, and say you can have one and you cannot have another. You can have maybe knowledge but not power, or you can have power but not knowledge. So we need to come out of these irreconcilable trade-offs to be able to basically uh, get into a quantum jump and get into a practice of innovation, because life is not about irreconcilable trade-offs. We need to balance these parallel goals. We need to pursue these parallel goals together. And for example, for an organization, profit and purpose, these are not two we organizations and businesses particularly often tend to consider them as two different irreconcilable and kind of mutually exclusive goals, which is actually which might not be true. And if done properly and if pursued properly, these goals can be balanced and these goals can be pursued simultaneously. And that's the what one of the roles of innovation is, to balance irreconcilable trade-offs. Uh, so basically, when we talk about that's what all innovation is about. And innovation is such a broad-based term that innovation is different to different people and different to different organizations. But what one thing is definitely which is true is that we need a change in our mindset. We need a change in the way we approach a problem, and we need to have change in our organizational culture to basically even think of bringing in innovation in our management practices. Uh, Now let's talk about sustainable development goals. What is this about? Sustainable development goals, as uh, all of you know, that it's defined by United Nations with their partner countries, and there are 17 sustainable development goals which are called global goals, and these global goals are around poverty evaluation. So it consists many zeros, like zero poverty, zero hunger, quality education, zero gender disparity, say clean water, sanitation, and there's so many sustainable development, 17 sustainable development goals. But if we look at the larger picture of sustainable development goals, it's all about creating social impact. It's all about bringing in change in life of the communities around us. It's all about improving people's lives. So sustainable development goals is not something which can be done on an Excel sheet, but it is something which, and it's not something which can be which will be achieved in say a particular time frame, and it will be just we can do away with. But just what sustainable goals are is only a documentation of uh, continuous goal, a continuous drive which organizations and individuals should do. And that is of creating social impact, and that is of improving lives of the communities around us. So if we talk about sustainable development goals, it's very important to talk about triple bottom line. If we talk about businesses, we have the concept of triple bottom line by John Eltington, and he talked about people, planet, and profit, and it just cannot be about profit. So it's very important also to care about the people, and it's important to care about the planet we are living on. So it basically talks about the welfare of people and the environmental protection, which kind of maps onto the current challenges of, say, poverty, with a challenge of climate change, and all those stuff. And businesses have a very important role to play. It's very sad that recently John Elkington had to recall his paper, which he wrote on triple bottom line, and he recalled it because I would like you to Google that paper and read that paper. He had to recall it because he thought that businesses have made his concept as a simple accounting and reporting tool to show how great they are. He did not recall it because he thought it's not relevant, but he actually recalled it because he thought it's now even more relevant, and businesses and people are not aligning to the basic philosophy of having a triple bottom line. And they're basically kind of, many organizations are getting into using it for rhetoric purpose in terms of presenting a good image of what they have done and actually not doing to that extent. So that's why he decided to recall his paper, and that's pretty sad. And that's the context of this address, is that we need to focus on achieving sustainable development goals, and sustainable development goals is all about achieving real triple bottom line, and not only talk about only profits. When we talk about sustainable development goals, these are integrated goals, and action on one goal impacts another. And it's a kind of network, it's a kind of web. So when an organization works or an educational institution works, we need to have a very integrated and holistic view of our activities, our goals, and what we need to do to contribute to achieving sustainable development goals, and bringing in a quantum change in the way we approach our work, and in the way we kind of map our work to the outcomes. And it's all about, these are global goals. These applies to all countries in a way, in some way or the other. And it's all about balancing social, economic, and environmental sustainability. So balance is very, very important element of sustainable development goals, and balance is very, very important element of innovation. One of the roles of innovation is to bring in balance in organizations, because there are so many organizations which have gone off track because of lack of balance, because of lack of organizational culture, or lack of balance between different activities. So balance is a very, very important element of sustainable development goals. And one more very important element which kind of gels with the philosophy of our my organization community is of inclusive development, is of leaving no one behind. So we just cannot think that there will be few businesses which will thrive and the communities won't thrive. We need to understand that businesses do business in societies. We do not do business, businesses do not do business in economies. They do business in societies, and they do business with human minds. So we just, even businesses cannot afford to leave the community behind. They have to, or they must focus, and it's not just altruism. It also makes perfect business sense to take your community along, to ensure that no one gets left behind in your say strive towards profit, or in your strive towards achieving bottom line, and your strive towards achieving maximizing stakeholder value. There's another philosophy that the business of business is to do business. And that's also one way of looking at it, that the role of a business is to maximize shareholders value, and to basically maximize all stakeholders value. I would say that the philosophy of this philosophy of the role of business is to do business, and the philosophy of triple bottom line, I do not see them are as mutually exclusive, because the role of businesses, this philosophy also talks about maximizing shareholders' value. And the only difference is that businesses often tend to see their shareholders or their stakeholders in a narrow view of actually people who are invested into their shares. But your shareholders or your stakeholders has a very broad view, and the whole society is a stakeholder in any business or organization. So I would say there is no conflict between these two different paradigms, and we need to integrate these two paradigms to bring in innovation and to achieve sustainable development goals, which is which are slated, or the aim is to achieve in the next 10 years or so. And when we talk about innovation, and when we talk about communities, focusing on communities, it's very important to talk about the sharing economy, which we are seeing a transition towards. I mean, the pandemic might have hit it to some extent and might have created a temporary dent or a temporary blip in that pursuit, but I would say that pursuit is not yet over, and it's a continuous pursuit which we must uh, continuously strive for. And that is all about a shared need of communities, how we can understand and how we can create a shared need between organizations and communities, and how we can achieve it together by involving the communities. And that is something which is very, very important to achieve sustainable development goals. And innovation should create social impact. It should not improving business processes is one, definitely, but it should create social impact. That's a very, very important aspect of innovation. Say, for example, I would say the Grameen, if you go into the example of Grameen Bank of Bangladesh, we have a similar example back home in form of Bandhan Bank. So it was about microfinance, and it was about basically bringing in innovation to empower people at the grassroots, to turn people at the grassroots into entrepreneurs, and to turn basically to make them entrepreneurs and empower the communities. We have so many such examples across the world. We have a non-profit named Goonj, for example, in India, the founder of which also won the Maxese Award. We have the Sulabh Shauchalar project, which is again a very, very important and a very innovative project, which brought in social change. We have, for example, there are so many examples. There are so many corporations which are doing great job in bringing in innovation for social impact. Tatas are, for example, known for creating social impact and maximizing community value, maximizing stakeholder value. What I would like to talk about is, and this is a topic which I am very passionate about, is that basically how we can, as management institutions and as students of management, how we can, what approach we should have to create in order to be enabled to create social impact when we are out of the educational institution. And that is something what I feel I might be a little critical, but what I feel that most of our management institutions and as well as students are working on a very transactional paradigm of, say, investing so much money for as part of their fee and expecting this much package in the campus interviews. And there is obviously campus interviews are important, but yes. Yeah, so that is one important aspect of management education. But at the same time, I would appeal to you as a management institution to kind of involve your students and kind of create structures and create psychologies to, in order to break free from this mindset of, from this transactional mindset of just achieving just getting a good job in campus and getting done with it. Management education is much more, is about much more. It's not only about getting a job. Getting a job is important, but a management education should bring in lasting change in the individual, in terms of the way he or she approaches a problem or things. And I would say, unless that change is not brought in, a new exposure level is not given to the students, a new worldview is not given to the students, management education does not serve its purpose. Other aspect which we are seeing in management education in India is that it is too much business focused. It's about management, and management is about management of businesses, management of self, management of say non-profit organizations, management of government, management of political parties. And we tend to have a very tunnel view of management, that management is all about managing businesses, which is not completely true. Yes, businesses do have a very, very important role in society, but as management students and management institutes, we tend to have a much larger view of management, and we need to build, we need to develop socially conscious managers, and which are who go not only into managing businesses, but who go into different walks of society, into different walks of life, where they create impact. They can become entrepreneurs, they can become social change advocates, they can become activists or political leaders. So it's very important to understand that management education is about building a overall personality, number one, and number two, identifying what do you need to want to do in life, and what do you want to achieve in life. And it can be social impact, it can be wealth, it can be anything, but it should not have a tunnel vision. And we need to we need to develop socially conscious managers, and management, we need to understand that management is not only about earning profits, but it is also about creating value for our society. So I think I have stuck to my time limit, and that's what I had to talk about. I would like to listen more from all of you, and interact with you in terms of how we can uh, together deliberate on this very important topic. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. It was extremely informative, and thank you for actually telling us the concepts about triple bottom line and how social innovation should actually result in social change. This is very important. So thank you so much again for joining us. Now let's move ahead. And now I would like to introduce our next expert, Mr. Kapish Saraf. Sir is the co-founder of KidX Venture Private Limited, which is a private platform aimed at holistic development of children. Sir is an IIM Calcutta and IIT Kharagpur alumnus. He has over 10 years of rich experience in industry with companies like Rivigo, the Boston Consulting Group, and A.T. Kearney. May I now request you, sir, to kindly begin with the expert session?
Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Perfect. Hello, everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. And thanks for giving me this wonderful opportunity to address a bunch of, promising superstars of India who are going to take the country forward. So I am going to talk about innovation in particular over the next 25 to 30 odd minutes. And innovation, while is a very powerful and well recognized word, but it is still something which is used very, very loosely by most of the folks. If we ever ask anyone to say that what does innovation mean to you, these are some of the most common words or responses which I have heard in my interactions with thousands of folks. But I will pick a very simple definition of innovation. They're not really trying to get into an academic debate over here, but for me, innovation simply translates into a solution which adds value. This value addition might be to individuals, might be to organizations, might be to society, might be to the government, people at large, but a solution which adds value on those needs of any entity which are unmet. This is a very simplistic definition of innovation which has worked for me so far, but a solution which adds value on those needs of any entity which are unmet. Now it could be new idea, it could be new application of an existing idea, it could be a product, it could be a service, it could be idea or execution, it could be patent, it could be original, it could be inspired by some other work, but the bottom line is a solution which adds value on needs which were currently unmet. And one of the most renowned corporate leaders, if we look at in today's world, Mr. Satya Nadella, I would want to champion one of the statements which he had made, that empathy is what makes someone a better innovator. What that fundamentally means is, again, if you go back, if you are able to appreciate unmet need of a person or an entity, and you are able to add value over there, that is where you are saying I'm connecting to a group of people or an individual people, understand their pain points, understand what they are going through, and then design a solution which solves for it, which adds value. And that, to me, translates into a very simplistic definition of what would qualify as a good example of a successful innovation. The first and foremost pillar for that particular thing is having empathy to identify needs of a group of users, discovering those needs. Those users can be anybody. And the pandemic has only exposed each one of us to different user groups who have, someone has talked about migrant workers, someone has talked about industries getting impacted, someone has spoken about people losing jobs, but these are big user cohorts. And if anyone tries to fundamentally associate with any of these user cohorts, try to understand their pains, where are they coming from, is what will help you articulate that what is that one single problem which, if solved beautifully in the life of such user cohorts, can create delight. The United Nations has, when they have articulated what started as the Millennium Development Goals, were those themes that forget the boundaries of countries, continents, regions. What are those 10 or 17 unifying themes which are common for humanity at large? Which are those problems which cut across a massively large user cohort, no matter which country are they from, what age group are they from, which income profile are they from? And then if you say that I want to take humanity forward, I want to make lives of each of these individuals better, you have fundamentally said it's an empathy led discovery of the user's needs. But each and every user need does not merit jumping onto the same and trying to solve for it. There has to be, on one end, the right brain gives us the ability to experience empathy and identify which are the pain points to solve for. The left brain helps us quantify that into some unique format of measuring or articulating, is this a meaningful problem and is the thought solution a relevant solution? As what the other esteemed speaker before me was mentioning, innovation need not necessarily be just capitalistic. There are multiple different flavors to innovation. There are social innovation, there are innovation for which companies are always trying to do their best, but there is fundamentally an objective function. You might want to do an innovation to create $1 billion business, or you might want to do an innovation to improve lives for millions of people in a non-profit manner. But there is an objective function. And if anyone applies a quantified approach or a data-led approach to assess that whatever solution comes to my mind, is it solving for the objective function in a meaningful manner? So if we are saying we want to eliminate hunger and we want to design distribution channels to distribute free food to millions of kids, for how long can you do that? Who is going to sponsor that? At which stage will it become a self-generating solution? All of those are relevant questions to ask, which can help one assess that the proposed solution, is it going to qualify as a successful innovation or not? So to any budding entrepreneur or scientist or inventor out there, my simple recommendation would be, keep these two lenses, these two perspectives in your mind. Whatever I am trying to build, is it solving for problem for a decently large group of people? Second, if that problem seems to be a decently universal problem, whatever solution I am proposing, will it help me meet the objective function? It does not mean that both of these two legs of innovation needs to be thought upfront. Maybe you start with empathy and discover a problem. But over the next 3 to 6 months, if you are not keeping yourself true to what you are doing, using the second leg of being a structured, analytical minded person who's measuring that how effective is my solution going to be, then you might be wasting your time. And for someone who has been gifted with talent and opportunities much better than most of the other folks in the country, that is a good self-reflection to have, that am I putting my natural gifts to best possible use or not? What I am going to share subsequently is the personal journey which I have had, which led me to KidX, and use that an example to highlight how have I treaded this path of innovation at KidX. So for us at KidX, me and my partner Amritanshu, both of us are friends for 17 years, batchmates at IIT, then batchmates at IIM. When we started our discussions, I think the first and foremost thing that came to our mind was, which is that user cohort which we associate with, which is that user cohort for which we want to solve for something. And think of it as, it is not really so much about is this a large segment or not. It is truly to say which is the user cohort you associate so closely with that you are willing to. Hello, am I audible? It seems like you
Yes,
guys lost me.
no, you are audible, sir.
Okay, and is the screen visible?
Not now. It was visible a minute before, but it's not visible
Okay,
now. Yeah, we
just
can see now.
okay. So the user cohort that we most closely associated with had these three underlying macro trends. We said if we look at India, there has been a growing nuclear family structure over the last decade and a half. In fact, government reports say 70% of Indian families have nuclear family structure now. Second thing we said was, in the last 5 to 10 years, we are seeing, and it's a delightful phenomena, we are seeing that families are becoming double income family structure, which means no longer the male member of the family is the only earning member. Both the male and the female member of the family are jointly taking the responsibility of contributing to the family's income. And as of the latest statistics, around 30% of Indian families have double income family structure now. The third thing is that more and more females are calling it out that we want a single child family structure. Whereas today, 10% of Indian families have a single child, but 24% of females out of a survey comprising of a few lakhs of ladies across metros, different tier 2, tier 3 cities have called out that they want to have a single child family structure. So these three macro trends translated for us at KidX into a user cohort saying there are well-educated people with disposable income living all by themselves, and their child is alone and independent from a very young and tender age. Some of us, including myself, have grown up in joint family setup. There were 8 or 9 different cousins, and the child was never alone. But my son, when he's growing up, he's all alone. I am working, my wife is working. And the child has to literally be, and he's just 5 years old. He has to be on his own. And as a parent, we are very well gifted. We want to give the best to our child, but what we do not have is the luxury of time. So we decided that this is a user cohort which we feel very strongly about, and we want to understand that how can we help them when it comes to their kids. As we got chatty with 2000 plus odd parents, again across metros, tier 2, tier 3 cities, there was a very strong theme which started emerging. Parents have disposable income. They are unsure what is the best thing for my kid. They are lost, they are confused, they are overwhelmed. And the entire corona experience, while is a once in a century kind of a phenomena, but it only enabled people to articulate their thoughts in a much sharper and concise manner. You guys can read some of the thoughts that we have tried to capture over here. Fundamentally, a parent does not want their kid to go and earn 50 lakhs or 1 crore or 2 crores or a few crores of annual salary. Every parent wants their kid to go on to live a happy and successful life. It is impossible for them to ascertain that with a good confidence level that am I setting my kid up for a happy and successful life? Happiness would mean the child has an all-rounded personality development. The child is able to manage successes and failures with equal EQ. The child is able to manage stress. Successful means that no one knows which are the skills which are going to be relevant in 2030s, which jobs are going to be the most rewarding ones. So how do you, whether you decide that I want my kid to learn a particular skill from a young age, or do I want to teach my kid how to learn new things quickly? While the parent is grappling with these questions, you keep hearing XYZ company raised so much $1 million from a foreign investor. Obvious questions: should I register my kid? If someone is saying it's worth so much, so many $100 million, is it really good? Am I missing out on something? Should I be doing something as a parent which I otherwise am not? A friend of mine, she has sent her daughter to this particular set of classes. Should I also send my kid to those classes? And as corona's impact only kept rising and rising, almost every company out there in the market starting chasing these parents, saying buy my product, buy my service, this is the best thing for your kid. Imagine the plight of that particular parent. Husband, wife, both working, both under this constant fear of job insecurity. No, what is going to happen? Is my job safe or not? Being all alone at home, managing home chores, and even requiring 24/7 attention to the kid. They are all over the place. And this is that pain point that we said we want to solve for this. At that particular point of time, if I bring your notice back to this framework, it was only an empathy-led user need discovery that we did. We did not try to measure whatever we are thinking, is it going to be a short-term thing, long-term thing, but we said this is a user cohort which matters a lot to us. We feel they are under a lot of stress, under a lot of pain. What is it that we can do for this particular user cohort so that their lives become better? And we used this particular user pain point to create a product which we called as KidX DIY challenge, do it yourself challenge. So our simple articulation was, there are 5 broad themes for any child's development: physical skills, communication skills, socio-emotional skills, cognitive skills, and creativity and imagination. Now, different people can peg on each of these themes, saying in 2030s, which is going to be a big lever for success. I might say that creativity and imagination is going to be the key thing to go after in 2030s. Someone else might come and say that it is coding and that is why cognitive. Someone else might come and say that it is all going to be sports and entertainment and that is why physical skills. But we said the answer is in these 5 themes. Second thing we said was all the kids are already getting exposed to a higher duration of screen time. Schools have had no choice but to conduct their classes online. So if a child is spending 2 hours to 6 hours online attending classes, parents are not really looking for solutions in which the child can come and sit in front of that laptop and attend one online class or another online class. The time for those would also come, but that is not what parents need during lockdown. So we said, let's run a national championship over 60 days. We will release 30 challenges. And these challenges are one unique life skill. This does not require screen time. It is at max a 2-pager self manual, which either a parent can read to the kid or if a kid knows reading can read it themselves. But over the next 5 to 7 days, the kid will practice that activity himself or herself. And that will teach the kid, one, give an exposure to all different kind of activities, help identify natural talents, help identify new hobbies. Second, teach the kid self-learning, that you should not be spoon-fed on everything, but you should have an approach in life towards self-discovering things and self-learning things. And thirdly, continuous improvement. On day 1, I was able to do this activity to a particular level. Over the next 3 or 4 days, I improved myself on that particular activity by practicing. So this entire designed unique concept we ran during May and June, and we were surprised that kids from 120 Indian cities, we have no physical setup, we did not even have an office then. Kids from 120 cities participated in this championship. Not only did they participate in this championship, when we took feedback from these parents, they loved us absolutely. The kind of feedback that we received from them, everyone wanted to participate another time again. People called out that they have been able to occupy their kid constructively during lockdown, that they would recommend KidX to their friends and peer group. And at this particular point of time, right, was the point where we then decided, let's apply a data-led assessment in terms of what did we do. While this was a unique event we created and ran over 60 days, I could have said the objective function is to solve for this user cohort for only lockdown, or is the objective function to say that I want to solve for these user cohort beyond the lockdown, or is the objective function to say, I want to build a business around it, build this solution in a manner so that it can impact the lives of millions of people while giving us an opportunity to also build this into a solid business. And that is where, given that no matter which customer we spoke with, the kind of different unit economics that we experimented with in our pursuit to build this solution, we were able to translate this entire experimentation into a unique solution which we believe adds value to the lives of a large number of people, solving for their unmet needs. And this became a gamified product for self-learning to promote child's all-rounded development. Now let's draw parallel. So we said there are 5 themes for child's development. You can pick 15 activities, you can pick 30 activities, you can pick 45 activities, but across these 5 themes, you have n number of activities, and it can be run over 30 days or up to 180 days. And each of these activities are unique for every age group. A different set of activities for 3-year-old, a different set of activities for 17-year-old. And we need a minimum cohort of 100 plus kids. If 100 plus kids are there, you can organize a self-learning competition in which kids are participating over 1 month to 6 months, and you at the end of that duration say which is the kid which is best all-rounder across the chosen themes and across the chosen activities. And this particular thing, we put together our maths. To our surprise, is a 10 billion plus USD opportunity in India as of today. Not commenting on the rate at which this is growing, not commenting on the opportunity outside India, but this particular solution, a gamified version of self-learning. So think of it as any school can say, I want to subscribe to this product. Over the next 12 months or 6 months, we will run a competition for 50 activities. Every child is mandatorily required to participate in each and every activity. There is no public sharing of a child's performance on any activity, but I, as a child, I will come and submit a solution for a debating entry. I will do an extempore as well. I will do yoga as well. I will do painting as well. I will do commentary as well. I will do stand-up comedy as well. I will do dances as well. I will do singing as well. On every activity, a neutral set of expert coaches rate those entries as, is the kid a beginner? Is the kid an intermediate? Is the kid a master? And that then translates into that the school can give an unbiased result that in each of my class, these are my best all-rounders and these are my closest challengers. But you are creating that enthusiasm in the kids to try out things without the fear of being judged, without the fear of being evaluated in public. And this is a beautiful, beautiful experience. We have heard from parents saying, my child is a right-handed kid, and only in your competition I realized that the natural foot of my child is left foot. I always thought that the child's natural foot is right foot. Some other parent came and told us that I always saw my kid as a sports person. I did not know that my child is good at dancing, that he was able to learn 5 dance forms in 15 days and perform each one of them for 1 minute each. So it is a beautiful journey of giving users one of the most powerful life skills for them to be happy and successful when they become adults. And this, we have realized, has the potential of becoming a massively successful innovation, and which if we execute properly, will also be a meaningful business opportunity. So that was all from my side. My intent was to use a personal example to just highlight this entire journey of how do you go about uh, identifying a great innovation opportunity. Wanted to share this learning to also highlight it is no rocket science. I can show you bunch of different PPTs talking about these are the 100 amazing ideas different people are working on. But someone will work on those problems, someone will solve those problems. What will be a more relevant takeaway for this esteemed group of people, in my opinion, is how do you identify an opportunity? How do you assess is it worth your time? And then how do you keep yourself true on that journey? If anyone has any questions, happy to take that. But otherwise, thanks for being very patient listeners. I know I might be eating into your lunchtime.
Well, thank you so much, sir. This session was very informative in terms of how we can be innovative in terms of education. And thanks for giving a live example where you've already co-founded KidX, and you've really used innovative ways of making kids learn. So this was really informative in that sense. Thank you so much for joining us today. Now I would like to thank everyone for joining us, and we are definitely in debt to all the guests for their presence, and we are thankful to all the participants. I hope that the participants have learned a lot from these sessions. Now let us go for a lunch break, and we will join back at 2:30. I hope that everyone can join sharp at 2:30. Parallel technical paper presentation session 1 shall start by 2:30, and it will be chaired by respective session chairs. I request all the paper presenters to join their respective sessions through the link that has been given to them. Please be on time. And I also request all the participants and audience to join whichever session they would like to join. Thank you so much again to the guests as well as to the participants for being with us, for joining us, and for giving all the information and sharing all the knowledge with us today. We hope to have a long-term association with all of you. Thank you so much once again. Let us see all the paper presenters after lunch. Thank you so much.